Going to record. Oh, it's already recording. Just kidding. I did have a couple people that were trying to join, and I guess registration closed a little bit before the meeting started. So if you know of anyone that's interested in joining, is not able to get the meeting join info, you should be able to share the invite to this under the more. There's like 3 little dots that you can see in your control panel. And if you have the option, it says meeting info, you can copy that information and that should get them a direct link into the meeting. So if you know anyone else that's trying to get on that is not able to join, feel free to share the direct link with them. I don't know why whenever we set up webinars like this that it doesn't allow us to easily share the direct join information, but you can find it there. All right, so today we are doing a Women in Ag panel discussion called Growing Together, a Women in Ag panel discussion. So I'm just going to kind of do a quick introduction of our program and what we are, and then I'll turn it over to Megan to introduce some of the panelists we have today. But we do want to keep this as a discussion and allow for questions, and there's chat options in your kind of control panel for this webinar. You can see there's a chat button as well as a Q&A option. You can ask questions in either of those, or you can either raise your hand and we can kind of call on you. You can unmute your mic. I believe everyone has the permissions to do that if you would like to verbally ask a question or kind of go back and forth. But we do want this to be a discussion. So feel free to ask questions. We will have time at the end for questions as well, or we'll try to, but we're just kind of going to start the discussion, and we want it to be as open and kind of share as possible. So Megan, I'm going to take control of the presentation, but you should be able to get that back whenever I turn it over to you. All right. So the Texas Agribility Project is who is hosting this webinar today. Can y'all see my slide? Okay. Sorry. And we are grant funded through USDA's National Institute for Food and Agriculture. So we're a grant funded project. It's part of a nationwide organization of other agribility projects, as well as some project partners. One of those is the AgriSafe Network. And the other, as our nonprofit partner, is the Brazos Valley Center for Independent Living and their Direct Disability Services organization. So through Texas Agribility, we provide services for individuals with disabilities, chronic health conditions, and functional limitations in agriculture. All right, I'm going to turn it back over to you, Megan. Oh, you're muted, I think.
Okay, thank you. I had to find the button for a second. All right, today I will be introducing our 3 panelists. So first we're going to have Erin Kimbrough, then we'll have Heidi Barber and Mackenzie Thomas. I'm going to let them tell you a little bit about themselves, as well as what they do on their farm and ranch. So Erin, if you'd like to kick us off.
Yes,
Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Sure. Y'all hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. All right. Well, howdy, everybody. It's good to be with you guys today. Thank you for joining. So I am Erin Kimbrough. I'm the program manager for our Battleground to Breaking Ground program. I'm also co-director on the Texas Agribility Project. And then I'm a co-owner of Growing on Faith Farm, and we raise grass-fed, grass-finished Wagyu beef. We also have poultry, and we have horses, and we do some agritourism. So we do a little bit of everything, dabble in a lot of different things. And I should probably say my husband is a Marine Corps veteran and a first responder. So we do a lot with veterans in agriculture out on our farms. And so that's kind of us in a nutshell. Did that cover it all, Megan?
I think that's great. Thank you. Mute myself just to make sure somebody doesn't knock on my door, so you'll have to give me a second to reply. Yes, I think that was amazing. Thank you, Erin. Heidi, are you ready to share a little bit about what you do?
Absolutely. So I'd like to say welcome to everybody. My name is Heidi Barber. I am co-owner of Hey You Ranch. As far as for the Battleground, the Breaking Ground program, I'm a program coordinator. If anybody is in the program or gets into the program at some point, I'm the one that gets to do all the fun stuff with our actual online courses and stuff. So that kind of gives me my piece back there to keep me busy. But as far as the ranch, role in the operation, myself and my husband, we both kind of share in the roles. One of us usually has more of a footprint in it. So I tend to do most of the finance, marketing, and then as far as the animal health, which falls under the operations, I'm primarily that because I was a medic in the Army. And but we do both partake in the operations side in the fence building and all those other wonderful things that nobody ever likes to do, and it's always in the heat or the crazy blizzard or some other thing. Can't be during the nice weather. As far as a little bit of background about myself, I retired from the Army 20 years in. My husband also retired from the Army 20 years in. We do host a fair amount of workshops here with our operation, and we like working with the folks that we get to work with. It's great to be able to teach folks how to take care of their animals and do the different things on the farm. So I think that about covers it.
Wonderful. Thank you, Heidi. Mackenzie?
All right. Hi again. I am Mackenzie Thomas, and I am the program manager for Texas Agribility. I also serve a small role in the Battleground and Breaking Ground project. And then I also, my husband and I have a small kind of cattle hay operation in East Texas, where we're from. So we do that on the side. We both also have full-time jobs outside of that, but that is something that we do on the side as well. And so my role in that program is I kind of do similar to Heidi, mostly like the financials, bookkeeping, that kind of stuff, because we have small kids. And so we have a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old, and so it can be a little bit challenging to do more of the hands-on stuff than maybe it was prior to this, and it will be in the future. As they get a little older, it's a little easier to have them involved with some of the operations stuff. We still do go feed, and when we work cows, we do a lot of that stuff together. But my husband does more of the kind of operations part, and I kind of handle more of the behind the scenes stuff for that. And so that's also something, we're doing it on the side, so it's not like a full-time employment for us. And then I also have a disability. I was in a car accident when I was 18, and so it left me with a few injuries that I have to kind of accommodate through that process as well. So I've had to try to figure out how to do some of that as we do our operation now. So I hope that covers it.
Yeah, I think that was wonderful. Thank you, Mackenzie. And actually, Mackenzie, you teed us up perfectly for our first question, which I'm going to go ahead and hop into now. Thank you, ladies, for that introduction. So our first question is going to be, what are some of the challenges that you have faced as a female? Now, Mackenzie, you did mention a couple things. Raising children is definitely one of them. And I believe, Heidi, you kind of mentioned having to do the manual labor, whether it be the 120-degree heat or, a blizzard. But ladies, could each of y'all just tell us some of the challenges that you've experienced as well? Erin, going with the previous order, would you like to kick us off?
Sure. Yeah. So, I feel like as even being a woman, farming and ranching can be hard for lots of folks. So I feel like we share just common struggles of when we got started, is like knowing where to start, I grew up a little bit doing some farming and ranching stuff. My dad ran some big feed mills across Texas, and we visited a lot of operations. We're hands for a lot of operations, but really didn't ever own our own. And so starting our operation, knowing where to go, and what to do, those first steps, all that decision making was really kind of a challenge, I think, when we first started out. And my husband comes from an ag background too, but kind of in the same area. His family had some farms that he had never done any ranching. And so we're kind of learning as we go. And that was a challenge, I think. And also having a community of even other farmers and ranchers, but especially women farmers and ranchers was few and far between. So I knew some folks, but not many, and not many who are really in that like primary operator role of a farmer ranch. And if you guys are, then you know that there's not a lot of time typically for social and community because we're out there farming and ranching, right? I don't have time to stop and have coffee with somebody for the most part. We've got stuff to do. So just finding folks who understood that and to come alongside and share in that was a little bit difficult. It's gotten better over the years and working in the battleground program because we do a lot of forced community in the battleground program where we all have to hang out and get together and talk about stuff. And I think that was really helpful as far as having folks to bounce things off of, and folks just really to like motivate you and keep you going, to just kind of troubleshoot some different things with I think at least in the world I've been in, I feel like there's still some discrimination against women and women operators in agriculture. I know I still struggle. Sometimes I was actually talking to somebody before this of I'll go in and I'll need some feed or some equipment or whatever it is. And sometimes I'm trying to talk to the salesperson. And if I have my husband with me, they'll usually talk to him and give him all the answers. And he's like, no, it's not my piece of equipment. You're going to have to talk to her. She's the one who's buying it. So, so that's still out there. I think those are things we're still having to overcome, but I feel like it's getting less and less. Thankfully, I know that there is a huge number of women-owned operations in the United States, but especially in Texas, there are lots and lots more every day of women-owned operations. So I think we're getting there, but it still is some challenges that we overcome, I think, and it's hard, I think, as a woman, not to lose our femininity in that and still get to be a woman and get to do all the things that are a benefit of being a woman, and not let it harden us so that we can feel like we're being heard and that we have a voice in the agriculture community where it is still male dominated for the most part. So that's a balance act, but I think uniquely as women we're pretty good at juggling a bunch of things, and I think we can continue to move that forward.
Very well said, Erin. Thank you so much for all of your input there. I especially loved what you said, something I haven't thought about personally, but just very true about not losing our femininity when farming and ranching. That's definitely something that's going to stick with me. Real quick, as we are having our panelists answer this question, please don't forget to drop any questions that you may have in our chat as they come up, and I'll be happy to sprinkle those in throughout this webinar. No, Heidi next. Sorry, I almost forgot the order. Heidi, would you like to go next?
See, you're losing track of who, 1, 3, 2, 4,
Too early.
So, right. All right. So kind of going in the same vein with Erin. Yes, my ag background as a kid was somewhat limited. I did 4-H, but my projects for 4-H was wood science because I did a lot of wood burnings that tied in with us doing commercial wood cutting. And then the other part was I did the poultry because we raised layers for eggs because we baked a lot and ate a lot of eggs. So that was really my true getting. And then we had a garden. We always had a 100 by 100 garden. We could grow a lot of fruits or a lot of vegetables, and we had fruit trees. We were in a little community out there in New Mexico. We were surrounded by larger ranches. Um, and periodically, like when they did the roundups and everything off those guys, because they're running on 10,000 acres, they may have 1,000 acres on. They've got 9,000 of BLM acreage that they lease to run their cattle on. And up in that country, you get those cattle that hunker down and hide in them draws up there. You could have 1,000 head of cattle that haven't been branded, haven't been touched, and haven't been seen probably in 10 years. They go do those big roundups when they sell the ranches. Next thing they know, they got 50,000 head of cattle that they hadn't been counting just because those cows are so smart and they get up there and hide in those draws and everything up in the mountains. But for that, we'd go out and occasionally help as a community. But as far as really learning it, no, they teach how to do that particular task. So your task might be counting the cows as they're coming through the gates. So they know how many head of cattle they got. Is that really truly ag based? Are you learning anything? Maybe. You learn how to stay out of the way of the cattle as they're coming through. That's for sure. But so relatively limited, at least know how to identify the animals 9 times out of 10, unless somebody's got some weird exotic version of it. But then actually getting into it, it still is a one business plan. Oh, that's like the dirty word of getting into this, because a lot of people, they sit there and if they go and download any of the templates for a business plan, that's not a small little thing. And now you got to think about how to write this. And when you don't have any knowledge of how to write this, it's a daunting task. Just looking at that business plan going, I got to do what? I got to tell you how to do this. I don't even know how to do this yet. How am I supposed to tell you how I'm going to do this? So once you get past the business plan, as far as a challenge, yes, I've had a couple of issues. For some reason, they don't think women understand mechanical, large equipment. That you actually might understand the animals. Not as bad on that part. One of the issues I ran into is trying to rent a skid steer. I knew exactly what I wanted. I knew exactly what I was doing with the skid steer. We were putting in posts for a fence. I needed their little T3 hammer so I could drive the T-post. They kept trying to give me the big hammerhead and all this other crap. I'm like, no, that's not what I need. Or the other one is because I was renting my no-till drill from an actual service company that does custom cover cropping, haying, fertilizer, herbicide applications, but I was renting their no-till drill. I just needed the tractor. And I made sure when I sit there and told them the size of the tractor I needed, that I needed hydraulic hookups for it. And what they try to do, they bring me the tractor out there with hydraulic hookups. And I'm like, I very specifically stated I needed that. Do y'all think I don't know what I need? So yes, there are some challenges out there for that. Hopefully sometimes just being patient and educating them about the fact that we actually do understand mechanics. We do understand equipment and how to use the equipment. Because that's one of the biggest things is, oh, that's not going to work for you. Yes, it will. Well, do you know how to operate it? I could probably give you a few lessons on the tips and tricks on how to operate it. Do we need to go down this road? So there are some challenges. I find, and I've had a couple of folks I could turn to as a mentor. So if I do get into those situations where I'm not sure of something, I can reach out to them and get some help, or at least get pointed in the right direction.
Heidi, have you ever had any issues with somebody being reluctant to rent something to you because they don't think you know how to rent or how to use it?
No, they haven't gone that far in it. It's usually in when I'm sitting down to rent the equipment up front that they don't think I understand what the equipment's capable of doing, or that sometimes they'll try to upsell it. Oh, but that little tractor ain't gonna be able to do it. Yes, it's perfectly capable of doing it. That's usually the bigger issue I run into.
Good to know. Good to know. Well, earlier I was saying it's too early in the seminar to already be confused, but I do know the next panelist I'm going to ask this question to, and that's going to be Mackenzie. Mackenzie, what are some of the challenges that you have faced as a female farmer and rancher?
Well, I'm kind of similar to the other ladies in that I grew up in agriculture and was somewhat involved in the operations of things like we, cut and baled hay in the summers when I was in high school, um, and, helped move cows, and I had show animals and raised those and fed and all of those things. But as far as like decision making power, that was never, something that we were doing on the whole operation, and it was a family operation. So you had, my grandparents were like the ones running the bulk of things, and then my parents had their own herd of cattle, but it kind of all tied into like the bigger family operation. And so there were some layers generationally of, like grandpa makes the bigger decisions, and then my dad makes some of his own decisions, but some of them flow into what the decisions my grandpa makes. And so it was interesting kind of figuring out those dynamics and how that works. But so one of the challenges that we had kind of starting our own is figuring out what we're going to do, and how we would like to do it, and what resources we might have available, to be able to do some of that stuff with. And then for me, it was, at the time, like, where do I fit into this? Because my husband, he has worked cows for a living for years. I mean, he's rode horses. He's done lots of things, revolved around cattle operations, but also there's things that we would like to do different than what he maybe has seen a lot of, in other operations. And so trying to come together and, I guess, figure out what our individual, like our operations goals were, and what our approach was going to be to what we wanted to get out of it, was a little bit challenging, but also like figuring out where I could fit into this plan. So, I mean, when we started, it was 2020. There's COVID. There was, agriculture was all over the place of like, we can't, sell product to like everybody's buying from their local producer. And you can't go one on one with people and all of that stuff. But we also had a baby that year. And so it's like, okay, I do want to be involved with this. This is something I'm very passionate about, but how much involvement can I really have if I have a newborn? And so I kind of had to evaluate what I was trying to get out of it. What is the goal? Is it to, give that, and our goal is to get something started so we could develop that experience for our kids when they're a little bit older. And so maybe my role is a little less now than it will be in a few years. And I had to kind of be okay with not being able to just get out there and do things that I see needed to be done and I wanted to be able to do, and I can't just go do them because I've got a baby, and that's not what's best for everybody. And so there's been a lot of kind of structuring how we do things and what we do so that it accommodates that. And it might look different, than it will a few years from now. I mean, just the tasks that we are able to do now, together, and that I can be more involved with, and feeding and checking up with animals and all of that stuff is a lot different now than it was when you have a newborn. But I have pictures of me with a baby strapped to me, going to check cows, or let's drop the baby off when we have to work cows, and plan this out so that that's, something that we can do together, or that I know you need help with. And so to me, as a female, that's the mom role is what really presented its own challenges. But I don't think I don't want to pretend like I'm like the primary, doer of things on our operation, because I'm not. But that is something that I want to be able to do at some point. And it is something that we do kind of accommodate for as much as we can right now, and with the hopes that, this is something that we'll do all together in the future.
Very good, Mackenzie. Thank you. And tying back into Aaron's point earlier of how important that community is, and having a good social network, somebody that you can drop the kid off when you do need to go work cattle. challenges that all women, I believe, face in ag at some point or another. Yes, Erin.
I just wanted to add too, ladies, one thing that I think has been kind of unique as a woman too is that, and I'll just use my ratchet strap example. When I got married, I think we went to pick up some feed. I've done ag forever, but I went to put a ratchet strap together. And my husband was like, "Whoa, why are you putting it together that way?" And I was like, I don't know. And he's like, "What? You've done this before, right?" And I'm like, "Well, honestly, because I'm a girl, most of the guys have put my ratchet straps on, and so like just knowing like a correct way to even do something as simple as a ratchet strap was something I didn't do correctly. You know, ratchet straps, but there were things like that because I'd been around and I've had a lot of like men in my life that uncles and dads and whatever showing me how to do things because I was a girl. They took care of a lot of things for me, so it didn't give me the opportunity to learn how to do it correctly. And so I would just encourage all the ladies out there that just having somebody show you the right way to do it and stepping in there and doing it yourself will make it stick so much better. And like Mackenzie, I know Mackenzie has 2 little girls. And so just calling her husband, helping to teach them different things, and Mackenzie teaching them different things has been really helpful because now there are a lot of things I do for myself or by myself because my husband's a first responder. He's gone every 3rd day and sometimes gets deployed that I just have to do. So sometimes it's nice, those gentlemen that we have out there that are still wanting to do everything, like change our tires and our oil and all of those kinds of things for us. It's nice, but there's a huge benefit to knowing how to do it yourself.
Having recently had to, within like the last week or two, change a tire on my horse trailer, I completely agree. I'm very glad my dad taught me that, and it's something that definitely I will be passing along to my children in the future, but also my other friends. Little hack: if you are doing it with a horse trailer and you struggle to get the tire up, I used a ratchet strap as a pulley system to pull the tire up because I couldn't get it on just right. So, speaking of spreading the knowledge, there's you a little hack if you need one. Mackenzie once again teed us up greatly for our next question. And I've seen that we had a couple new people log on. I just want to remind y'all that the chat is open. I'll be happy to answer or to ask those questions to the panel, but also if you want to raise your hand, just as Erin did, there's a little hand icon on the top of your screen, and you can click that and I'll make sure that we call on you. So our next question to the panelists are, what resources have you utilized that have helped you become successful? And I'm going to let Erin go first again.
Well, so as manager of Battleground Program, part of what we do is teach folks all about the resources that are out there. And I literally have a 26 tab Excel spreadsheet with resources that we've utilized. But I would tell you probably the ones that we use and that I rely on at least a weekly basis, some of them more like on a daily basis because they're foundational type principles. Holistic Management International, or HMI, is a great one. They did have a women's program, I know, but they did a kind of like a beginning farmer rancher type training, and it was all introduction to holistic principles, intense rotational grazing management, those kinds of things. It was fantastic. I really used a lot of that. That's gone into a lot of our foundation because they teach a lot about holistic decision making, meaning that every decision you make has a impact on the whole, not just your land, not just your animals, but on your family and your community and those kinds of things. It was a really good thing to do, I think. The NCAT ATRA, ATTRA, NCAT ATRA is a really good resource. They have lots of sustainable type management practices. Of course, AgriLife has always been great. We started our operation really where we started into production with a microloan from Farm Service Agency, and that helped us do the matching funds on our Texas Department of Ag Young Farmer Grant. That made a big impact. So that was a grant of about, I think it was about $10,000. We started with goats, and then we actually moved into cattle. I think the last one would be Farmer Veteran Coalition. So we utilize them quite a bit. We've received a couple stipends from them. We've received equipment. They've bought us our squeeze chute, my preferred squeeze chute. So those are probably the big ones. And again, there's tons of them out there as far as different resources that you can utilize. And there's a lot better. They've done a lot better now. I think the discovery tools where they can get you kind of link you to some resources, and some of those beginning farmer rancher folks that represent like USDA, they're really good at connecting you. So I know it's a lot of information to kind of sift through, but I think you can do it, and there's folks out there to help you do that.
Erin, very good. I was actually trying to look up some of those links. So you said HNI, and that's Holistic National Institute. Is that correct?
HMI, as in Mary. Holistic Management International.
Sorry. International. And then the other one was NCAT ARPA. How did you?
NCAT, and it's their ATRA. I never know what it stands for. ATTRA. NCAT ATRA. So NCAT, National Center for Appropriate Technology. Their ATTRA ATRA is their technical assistance. Like they do their publications, their courses, all of that kind of stuff.
Okay, great. Thank you. Erin is notorious for speaking very fast, and she's very, very knowledgeable. So I always try to stop her and make sure I heard her correctly whenever we're getting those resources out there, because these are amazing. I'll make sure that I find the links for these and drop them in the chat so that y'all can find them as well. And Heidi, do you want to share what resources that you have used and found most useful?
Sure. So I'll hop in here and start off with AgriLife Extension. And I'm going to give a caveat on this because this may help some of y'all if you're struggling out there in the counties you're in. So the county I am in is Coryell County. The primary enterprise areas covered, or the most ag operations in operation in the county, first is cattle, second is hay production. After that, just a smattering of the other enterprise areas. So for me as a sheep producer, I can go talk to our extension agent here in our county if I want to cover stuff like pasture management, pests, some of that stuff. But actual sheep knowledge, he can talk a little bit about it, but he's going to usually defer me. Now, my county over from us, Lampasas County, the extension agent, he raises goats, and that is probably the one. Sheep and goats are and cattle all are probably about the same for that county. So they do stuff with sheep and goats. They have programs occasionally for sheep and goats along with the cattle and hay production. So I'll reach out to our county for pasture management type questions. I'll reach out to Lampasas for my sheep and goat. And I hit up a lot of the District 7, which is Lampasas County, because that is our primary sheep and goat region for the state. Now, if I want to know anything on pecan trees, because I have like 20 mature trees on my property, I either got to run over to Bell County, who has a little bit of knowledge on them. They do have some orchards in Bell County. But if I really want to find out about them, I go out to San Saba, which is kind of like the pecan capital of the state, if not the whole U.S. So sometimes it's good to learn what your surrounding counties' primary enterprise areas. So if you're dabbling in some of them, but you really want to maybe find some workshops for them, reach out and find out and follow them so that you can find when those things are going on, or you at least know who to reach out to when you need assistance for those items. Farm Service Agency, farm number from them, enrolled in several of the programs that they have, such as livestock forage protection, which, you know, with being in the drought, we've gotten paid a few rounds now. Also with NAP, been paid a few rounds on them. So Farm Service Agency, definitely check those guys out. They can be of great assistance and value to you. You just got to make sure you schedule some time to go in and sit down with them. NRCS, Natural Resource Conservation Services. I usually use them for technical information. I haven't actually done anything with any of their programs yet. That's coming potentially here in the future. I just haven't had a need for it yet. The other thing, Farmer Veteran Coalition, we actually applied for the fellowship grant that they have yearly, and we were awarded $5,000 grant for that, and we bought our sheep tilt table with a scale, which that thing has paid for itself many times over, because before we were running about 20 head of sheep, and it'd take us a whole weekend to manually work the sheep. Once we got the tilt table, running 20 sheep through takes us now about a half day, and that's because we're usually taking breaks about every third animal, go grab a drink, sit down for a minute, and then come back. Let's see who else out there potentially. Texas A&M Sheep and Goat Research Station out there in San Angelo. I definitely utilize them for questions on sheep and goats. Plus, they also have the Sheep and Goat Expo that I go out to every year. They cover a lot of topics on the industry for sheep and beef cattle. You've got the beef cattle short course, does similar type of thing for you. Breed associations for me, I raise Dorpers and Katahdins. I'm a member of each of those associations, and both of them do quarterly little magazines with information in them. They'll have some things in there like tips on herd health. They'll have things in there on handling the animals, plus the advertisements for the upcoming events around the U.S. So breed associations can be useful. Plus, if you're doing registered animals, they handle the registration process and everything for that. But they also usually will do some kind of at least once a year an educational event. I know both of them, they do once a year. They do it as an educational event and annual meeting. And so there's a lot of good information put out there. Plus you get the gathering of similar like-minded folks together. And it's great just to be able to socialize at the lunch or at the social dinner or whatever. And I've learned as much probably from going to those kinds of items, just sitting around listening to people talk about their operation, problems they've had on the operation, things they've done to solve that problem, as I have going to workshops. So there's benefits there. I think that covers most of the bulk of the major resources.
Very good. Thank you, Heidi. Another thing that Heidi mentioned, and correct me if I'm wrong, is somebody asked me this question the other day, so I want to make sure everybody knows. Even if your local ag agent maybe doesn't know a lot about what you need help with or isn't specialized in that, you are able to reach out to other counties. Is that correct? Okay, I'm seeing a nod from Aaron. And I think
Absolutely,
Heidi,
and a lot of time they'll actually probably refer you if you don't reach out. They'll say, hey, you might want to reach out to so and so in XYZ county. They're more specialized in this. I know they've had some run-ins with that kind of an issue. They should be able to get you some help.
people know. So if you're like me and you live in a smaller county that maybe your ag agent doesn't have a whole lot of information, but you want to reach out to another county, even a neighboring county, please know that you can do so. Thank you. Aaron, did you want to add something?
I do. So, and like Heidi said, we have research centers. AgriLife has research centers. A lot of folks don't know that specialize in different things. So, like our forage research center for AgriLife is in Overton. And then we have one that does a lot of horticulture that's in Dallas, and the sheep and goat one is out in San Angelo. So we have those research centers, and they have typically like ag economists that are there, and they do like the budgets, enterprise budgets for your regions and those kinds of things. They're very helpful. And then we have specialists within AgriLife Extension as well. So there's almost as many specialists as there are enterprises. So just because you might not find an answer specifically in the county. A lot of times your agents are really good connectors, but if you struggle with that for whatever reason, like Kai said, you can reach out to another county, or you can just reach out to the specialist directly. So, and they love helping folks. They love visiting with folks because a lot of times they're just stuck behind the desk having to do all the paperwork, but they really like talking to you. It's what most of them would rather do. So just make sure to connect with them. And they do a lot of events. Also, the research centers do a lot of events, and get on your county's newsletter. Figure out call your county offices, get on their newsletter, and you'll be the first to be notified of events that come up near you that you might want to attend.
Thank you so much. And Mackenzie?
Yeah, so I mean, some of the resources that I feel like have been most beneficial has just been the human resources that we've made connections with. We've used some of those programs too, and honestly need to do a better job of connecting locally with some of our resources that are like extension and that kind of thing. Just because I work for extension and I know about the programs doesn't mean I'm like necessarily involved with what's going on at the local level, and I realize that and need to be. But because we're in a different county than we were originally, and so I do think that's very important and one of the pitfalls of like us not connecting more. But we do know we basically moved back home to be closer to family and to kind of be more in the ag industry during 2020, and so we do know a lot of people that are in this industry here, and so it was like reconnecting with those people and seeing, what they're doing and what works for them, and connecting with new people. Where we have a county that's pretty rapidly growing, which I'm sure most of you probably are. A lot of people are moving to Texas, and so there's a lot more smaller ag operations closer to us that are doing lots of different types of things, and some of it's working really well, and some of it maybe isn't. But just getting connected with what's going on kind of close to us, but also that's doing things that are what we're interested in doing. So maybe we are wanting to do something a little different that not many people right here in our county are doing. Like, how do we find somebody? What phone call can we make to the feed store to figure out like who does this somewhere around here that we can talk to and get some real information on what works, and then cross-reference that with what kind of the research and the data says. Because one of the things that's interesting too is sometimes whenever there's something a little bit different, there may not be a lot of information about that locally. If there's not a lot of people doing it in your area, there's probably not going to be a lot of data on how well it works, and so some of it is trial and error. And I think having kind of the human resources has been very helpful for us, and making sure to get connected with those people and stay connected with people that maybe we were in contact with 10 or 15 years ago when we were kids or whatever, or our parents knew, but establishing those relationships now for us. So that's been really important, as well as some of the like physical resources. So with me having some like challenges with mobility sometimes and things like that, we've had to implement some resources that like different, like we bought a cattle feeder instead of just feeding normally, because my husband knew if I was going to be able to help in the operation, like while that's an expense we didn't really want to have to purchase, and people are like, why are you buying that feeder, that's something that I could do with my like limitations as they may be in the future for years and years and years. So we've implemented some tangible like physical resources that on the outside may look like, well, why do you need that thing? But it's because what that allows us to do efficiency wise, and then allows me to be able to be involved with for our operation. So those have been super helpful too, and I feel like will help us be more successful in the long run.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Let's get on to our next question. How do y'all handle work-life balance on the farm? And for time's sake, I'm just going to let whoever wants to chime in first, go ahead and chime in since we have about 15 minutes left.
I can stay with the kind of status quo here. I'll jump in and try and be quick. So I would say the biggest thing maintaining work-life balance is grace. Grace with myself, grace with others, because best made plans only survive or never survive first contact, right? And so I'm a planner. I like to stick things in their lane. They rarely stay inside the boundaries, so it does take a lot of grace. I think having a plan, at least a minimum set of things that need to get done, and communicating that to the rest of what we call our management team, but that's the folks who are able to make management decisions on our operation, which typically is me and my husband. Knowing what our roles in the operation are and who's leading up to those, and trying our best not to step on each other's toes. I married a Marine who's a type A personality. I have a very type A personality, so it helps us to have zones of control. And I've got final decision in this zone, and he has final decisions in this zone. We of course communicate those to each other, but really whoever at the end of the day makes the final decision on what we're doing in that zone is up to whoever's the leader of that zone. And that has really reduced a lot of conflict in our own relationship, which conflict takes a lot of time, that we don't have. And so that has helped out a lot as far as kind of managing that. I'd say communication's a big one. For sure, making sure everybody knows. We have whiteboards all over the place where we write down priorities and try and kind of organize those. And then we have weekly schedule meetings of like, what's most important this week? What do we got to get done? Who's going to get it done? Okay, go. And a kind of a joint shared calendar. That's been helpful for us. And then again, I will end that with grace, because you can start with grace and end with grace, because again, none of that ever works perfect. And when it seems like it's going to, be the worst, sometimes it is. Anytime my husband gets deployed, that's when I get a kidney stone and the bull dies, and we've got to do something about that. And I'm there by myself, right? So take care of that. And last little bit of advice I'd give to you guys. So what's been really helpful for me, there's a book, it's a short read, you can read or listen to it. It's called Eat the Frog. And I will sum it up in just this. It's essentially, if you have to eat a frog, eat the ugliest one first, because it's not going to get any prettier the longer you look at it, and it's just going to get harder. Meaning, do the tasks that you want to do least first, and then your days are better. And things flow a little bit better. It's a time management strategy that's been super helpful in our life.
I can chime in too and just kind of feed off of that, is that prioritizing our things has been very important and could be like the detriment to our operation if we don't do that. Because, communicating, we both have full-time jobs outside of our production. And so, we have priorities there, we have family priorities, and then we have our farm branch priorities. And so if it's not communicated that we need to work our cows this weekend, and there's also a birthday party for our kid's friend or whatever, that can be a challenge. And so prioritizing what needs to get done, because the list of things that we could do is always a lot longer than the amount of time and resources we have to do them all. So like Erin said, sitting down and saying, okay, what is like the necessary things we have to do, maybe this week or this month, and then what are some things that would be nice to do, and how do we fit all of that in, has been very important for maintaining like a healthy work-life balance, and involving each other in the things that we can. So if we have full-time jobs and kids and all of these things, we don't have a lot of free time necessarily. So if my husband's out feeding every day, and we're in the house, then we're not spending time together, and we like to spend time together. So how can we incorporate, our free time with our work time, and do we all go feed together and go, count cows with the kids while we're doing that, because then we can do kind of both at one time. And so that's been also a good way to kind of incorporate both the work time and then the fun time together.
I'll hop in on that one too, and I'm also going to probably give you number 5, which is tips for beginners. So one of the things with work-life balance is, one, know your schedules. Make sure you set time aside for yourself and for your family. And that's why I say know your schedules, because like for us to go our normal day, not a day we need to work animals or anything, is go out and feed the sheep in the morning, go out and feed the sheep in the evening, because we do pasture and actual controlled rations. So typically in the morning and the evening, it takes about 30 minutes each, and that's maybe 40 minutes if we got to top off water troughs. So if I'm wanting to go out to eat, and I know it takes me about 40 minutes to do it, and we want to get to the restaurant in time, then maybe we move up our feed schedule by a half hour. The animals are not going to suffer from doing that. So, there's a little bit of things in there to be able to still give you some time, still get the other stuff done. Like if we go out to the Sheep and Goat Expo, because that's a Friday, Saturday event. So if we're both going to go, we'll sit there and take and load up the hay feeders with enough to cover them for 2 days. Make sure their water troughs topped off, because our water troughs for them will usually last 3 to 4 days. But we make sure they're topped off. And then we usually have one of our friends will come over and make sure they feed the dogs for us and just check to make sure that nothing's gone crazy while we go. And so what we'll do is we'll get up early Friday morning, drive out to San Angelo, attend the event, and then we'll drive back Saturday afternoon. So you can still plan some activities, and if you do get that person trained, that, that friend or whatever, that you can bribe them with the beer and barbecue to actually come over and take care of the farm for you for a weekend, that's cool, because then you can do a weekend event. So, but take the time, plan that stuff in. Don't let your social life in the family suffer because of your off-farm job and your operation. And like I said, and that ties into the tips for beginners, some things of how to make sure you got that work-life balance. The other thing, start small. If you haven't started an operation yet, or you're just at the beginning stages, don't go crazy thinking, hey, I like cows. They're cute. I'm going to go buy 100 head of cows. And 3 months into it, you realize, I absolutely hate cows. I despise these things, and now I need to get rid of them. And now I'm probably going to take a loss because I went out and bought 100 cows. So don't go super crazy at the beginning. Ease into it a little bit. Make sure it's something you like to do. Like I said, sometimes we sit there and we're enamored by the pictures and everybody else and things, and we think, oh, or you get enamored by because in Texas, cattle is king. And cattle may not be king for you, so just think about those things for you to help keep you from getting into trouble.
Very good. Thank you, Heidi. Thank you for teeing us up for our last scripted question, which I'm going to throw back to the panelists. And Aaron, we'll start again with you to keep the flow going. Do you have any tips for beginners that we maybe haven't discussed yet?
I like Heidi said, I think keep it small. Business plan is always great because it's way better to lose money on paper than it is out of your bank account. So rely on folks who are more knowledgeable than you. And it's never as easy in real life as they make it out in a book, on YouTube, or on TikTok. Do not use that as your basis of whether or not this is going to work, because there's a lot of things that don't work on the internet or on TV or whatever it is, like it does in real life. So I don't think there's any replacement for hands-on experience. And if you can do that underneath a mentor, somebody who can teach you, who genuinely cares about your learning and about helping you keep from making a lot of really expensive mistakes, I think that is just means the world. And on the opposite end of that, don't let somebody corral you. If you have an idea that I think is going to work really great, but every farmer that's been in production for the last 40 years tells you that it's not possible. Well, maybe it wasn't possible for them, but maybe it's possible for you. And I mean, use good risk management strategies. Go in that with a grain of salt. But I think in ag, that's how great things happen. Is folks have great ideas and good follow through, and you can make some things work, but don't fight Mother Nature, because it'll be the most expensive thing you ever do. You can make a lot of things work if you throw enough money and time at it, but is that really the best use of your resources? And that's back to you, Mackenzie.
All right. Well, I only have one, and it's that I think it's worth it. I think that, there's a lot of struggles, there's a lot of long nights sometimes, a lot of rearranging of schedules, and maybe fighting at the working pins or whatever. But I think the benefits outweigh whatever drawbacks there are. And for our family, especially being able to, pass that along to another generation possibly, or just teach them life lessons through what we've learned or what we can show them, because we have access to this and because we're, doing this as well as working. I think the benefits way outweigh whatever drawbacks there could be, and that it's worth it to try it and keep going. And if it's something you really want to do, your time is not wasted by trying it.
I'm taking my own personal notes because everything you wonderful ladies have been saying is actually very good advice. So even though I work with all of y'all, I swear every time I listen to y'all speak, y'all have another little bit of tidbit that I gotta write down. So I want to now open this up for questions. I haven't seen any questions in the chat. Please feel free to, oh, sorry. Thanks for the updates. Keep me in mind. Okay, just wanted to make sure I didn't miss a chat at the very bottom. But if anybody has any questions, please raise your hand or put them in the chat. And for time's sake, I'm going to go ahead and hop on to the survey portion. Mackenzie, do you?
Yeah, just a couple poll questions about satisfaction. But if you want to unmute yourself, y'all can ask questions during this time too. It'll just pop up on your screen. And it's just a couple poll questions to help us gauge whether this is helpful or not, and what we could maybe do better. We can also provide you in the follow-up email links to the things we talked about. So I know they're in the chat, but if that's something you would like to follow up on, some of those resources, I can definitely send you a follow-up email with the links to those resources too. So don't worry if you weren't able to catch all of that.
And I would like to ask too, ladies, we're trying to develop this community that we've been talking about, this women's in agriculture community, and we really would like to know from you, what do you need, you guys, as women producers or looking to be producers, spouses, what do you need to be successful in your operations so that we can continue to develop this community with some purpose and goals in mind that help us all? Wonderful. That's awesome, Lori. Congrats. I love the mini cattle. There's some on the drive, the little mini Herefords. I love them.
They're so cute. I love I don't know what kind they are, with the long hair. See them all over social media.
The Highlands.
Also a veteran.
She's also a veteran. Check out Farmer Veteran Coalition. It's awesome.
Might be the Dexters too, because they're kind of hairy.
Yeah, Dexter is kind of hairy.
Erin, I know
and this is something too, like we can continue these conversations and we started this panel discussion with some of our staff just because we wanted to kind of take it slow. Start small. But also, these are things we can have guest speakers come in and do these periodically, once or twice a year or whatever. If y'all feel like this is beneficial, and would like to hear from other points of view, maybe people that are full-time or, more advanced in their farming adventures versus beginners. So this is also a conversation that we can have, later on with other panelists, or even have talked a lot about doing some in-person events. And so having some in-person kind of opportunity to connect with other women in ag, and the ability to learn some of those things about machinery safety, and the ability to operate different equipment, and just other connection type things in person. We've talked about maybe starting up something like that. So but if there's other resources y'all need, or things you're looking for and seeking out in your own operations or in your own lives, that's things we're looking, what can we do to reach more women in ag and provide those kind of resources. And as you can see, it's something that's near and dear to our hearts, because we're all, while we do this professionally, and that's something we're doing on the professional front, it's because it's something that we are passionate about personally. So to love workshops to learn farm skills and value-added products. I love that.
I need all of the above. Where's the best place to get assistance with a business plan?
So I'm partial, of course. Our Battleground program, we do a year-long program. We have tuition waivers for 10 tuition waivers per cohort for our active duty military and veterans, and then we have 5 tuition waivers for beginning farmers and ranchers. There's a couple of folks that are on here that are in the program, in the Battleground program, so they can speak to that. But we help you get a business plan, a whole business plan, walk you alongside with an ag economist who gives you lots of feedback on that. But there's other programs. So I know we're going to share NCAT ATRA. They have some things that help you get a business plan together. I know there's some other AgriLife courses through AgriLife Learn that are business planning courses. I will tell you the Battleground program itself, because it is it's pretty robust, but it has kind of an all-inclusive. We teach you the business planning side, and then we also teach you the ag production side, and we get you hands-on learning, you have mentors, that kind of thing. It's a lot. So we typically estimate the time requirement each week is probably going to be close to like half time. If you were like half time college or something like that, it's probably about that kind of time commitment. And I totally understand that's just not where some people are, but there are other resources out there that help you do that. So there's templates you can fill out. Is it Ag Plan, ladies, that you can fill it out? Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
From University of Minnesota, maybe?
I believe
UMN.
so. We can put that in the resources too that we'll send out.
Yeah. So that's one that's pretty helpful. It's got examples and that kind of stuff and walk you through. I think the best benefit that we do is that you walk through it alongside that ag economist, so you're getting that weekly feedback and all the stuff to complete it. And I'll give you one last resource. Building a Sustainable Business is a resource under SARE, so that's Sustainable Agriculture Research and Education Agency. It's our textbook for our course, and we'll post that for you guys too. It's a good one. Yeah, I love that so many of our participants are in the course. We are. Hopefully out at our ranch, we'll host probably a weekend women's only type of being out on the farm type event. Trying to convince the fire department. We'll have to do some on-farm, what do they call it, medical type training, so we can borrow the fire department's tent with air conditioning. So we have a place to stay. I know, right? And they're all their cots and stuff. So which I think is really important. I've always wanted to do a workshop, trauma on the farm, because we know how to we need to know how to keep somebody alive until the EMS can gets out there to us, right? Because a lot of us are out in the middle of nowhere. Is something we've always wanted to do. So we'll probably incorporate that with like a women's weekend, and we'll be reaching out to you guys who are interested on topics and things you guys want to learn while we're there.
So I know we're a little past 1:30 right now, but I did want to go ahead and introduce your team. You've met a few of them today. You've met Erin, Kimbrough, Mackenzie, and Heidi. I'm Megan. So you also met me, and the only one you didn't meet today was our fearless leader, Cheryl Greenwald, Dr. Cheryl Greenwald, excuse me. And so here's all of our contact information. We'll make sure that we include this in the email that we send out. But if y'all would like to take a screenshot now, you're more than welcome to, so you can remember who was who. I'll give y'all a couple minutes on that, and then I'll go to our contact us page. Erin, someone used to send me BTB info, but I'm not getting it anymore. I can always do a Houston Chronicle article if you'd like to collaborate. It would be great to have some firsthand accounts.
I would love that. Thank you, Brandy. Yeah, and we have some money specifically for Houston area participants to support them in the Battleground program. So that would be really great. Some specific tuition waivers just for Houston area participants. So I love that. We'll have to get connected.
And I also dropped in the chat our newsletter link to sign up. We do share a lot of resources and like upcoming projects and Battleground and Breaking Ground, things opening and closing and all of that through our newsletter list. So if you're not already and would like to subscribe to that, that's a good way to kind of get connected with what the different programs are doing. It's a joint one between Agribility and Battleground, so you'll see all of the events and things for both programs.
Yeah, I second that. We send out notifications, save the dates, all that kind of stuff through our newsletter. And we have a calendar. You guys can also, so they can still subscribe to the calendar, right, Mackenzie?
I believe so, yes.
Yeah, on our website. We'll post things there. So our next big event, if you guys are putting stuff on your calendars, we'll be doing our boot camp, our 5-day boot camp in January, as far as the Battleground program goes. That's probably our next one. And Heidi, I think probably is the best person with specific dates because I can't pull up my calendar right now. But it's like the third week of January, and it'll be on our Agribility Battleground calendar on the website. But if you can make it, that's a really good one. We spend about 5 days going through doing farm tours, intro to business planning, a lot of community stuff, hanging out, getting to know each other.
Awesome. Thank you all so much. I'm going to move on to the quick contact us page. This is just our more general contact us information. Again, that will be sent out in the email. Does anybody have any questions maybe that we didn't get to cover that you all would like to bring up?
We're also doing another webinar next month on the 11th about safety planning and kind of risk assessment on the farm. So if that's something, I feel like maybe biased, but women might be more prone to paying attention to safety and risk than our male counterparts. So if that's something you're interested in learning more about safety planning and risk assessment, we have Dr. Dufresne, who works with the Texas A&M School of Public Health, and he's also kind of an environmental health and safety person, and so he's going to be presenting that topic to us. So I think it's going to be a really great opportunity, and I'll share information on how to register for that in the follow-up email as well.
Thank you, ladies, for joining us, and thanks for continuing in agriculture. I know it's not easy, so we really appreciate you guys because I think it's necessary. We have to keep those operations going to feed our families, feed our communities, feed the world. So we appreciate all that you do.
Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing your expertise and your knowledge. I know several people have said it in the chat, but I just wanted to echo that as well. Thank you, everybody. Again, this is Erin for joining us today.
Thanks
y'all
all.
have a great day.
Thank y'all.